These are people from the same country, but their way of life is quite different, and their behavior changes throughout the year. Why do you think that is? Well, this person wouldn't be very comfortable wearing flip-flops, and they don't really need sunglasses at the moment. The choices they made were responses to the physical environment. Just like them, people living in all sorts of environments across the Americas adapted to the unique opportunities and challenges of their environments. Before colonizers arrived, North America was home to hundreds of vibrant and diverse indigenous cultures. Indigenous means the earliest group to inhabit a land, or a group that existed there before colonizers arrived. And often indigenous is used interchangeably with native, so indigenous Americans and Native Americans mean the same thing, and we'll use both. Today, we'll learn about a few different environments in North America and how the native people living in those regions adapted to those environments. Today's learning goals are to explain the connection between geography and culture, describe geographic features that shape culture, including climate, topography, and access to resources, and describe ways in which Native American populations adapted to their environments. People have to make choices based on the environment around them. In an earlier time, before advances like air conditioning inside our homes, the type of buildings people lived in, and the sorts of clothes that people wore, had a connection to the conditions outside. People used resources that were locally available or could be traded for, and they designed buildings and clothes that could keep them warm or cool. It depends on their needs, right? When people make decisions about how to live based on their environment, those choices are called adaptations. Because of our intelligence, humans are among the most adaptable animals ever to walk the earth, allowing us to live in many different environments. You learned recently that humans adapted to ice age conditions by crafting warmer homes and clothes, finding new sources of food, or by migrating. As a result of those migrations, new continents were eventually settled by the lithic peoples of the Americas. Let's take a look at how that founding group became incredibly diverse over time because of the diverse geography of North America. As you can see on this map, there are many geographic regions in North America with a variety of resources, climates, and landscapes. Today, we'll highlight three: the temperate, arid, and Arctic regions. But there are many more. California is its own climate region with different characteristics than all the others. Naturally, people living there will behave differently than people living in swampy areas or the Great Plains in the heart of the continent. Let's start with the temperate region. The southeast United States has mild temperatures and lots of rainfall. This is where the name temperate comes from. But it has other features as well, including rolling hills, fertile soil, many rivers, and lots of resources like stone, wood, plants and animals, and fresh water. These resources could be used to build homes to live in and canoes for transportation. The soil is excellent for farming. Traveling across the continent to the southwest, we enter the arid desert. Deserts have hot, dry summers and cool winters. While there are some plants, there is little vegetation compared to other regions. And of course, deserts don't have much water. This region is more difficult to farm, unless you're skilled in water management and conservation. There are also fewer resources here, but there is an abundance of clay, and there are stark changes in elevation that result in exposed cliffs that provide shade. Far to the north, Part of Alaska is within the Arctic Circle. This area is frigid. There are harsh, extremely cold and dark winters. Summers are short and still can be chilly. There is little vegetation here as well, so very little wood, if any, but there is an abundance of ice. So how did these conditions shape the lifestyle of people who lived there? Indigenous inhabitants of the Americas, also called Native Americans, could only adapt to the environment by using available resources. In the temperate region, the Cherokee Nation developed sustainable agriculture, growing corn, beans, and squash, which they called the Three Sisters. These crops grew well together in the same field and provided protein, vitamins, and fiber, all needed for a healthy diet. The Cherokee also hunted deer, fished in rivers, and gathered natural fruits and berries throughout the temperate region. Their homes and buildings incorporated the surrounding landscape. Wattle and daub buildings were made from woven branches covered in a mixture of mud and clay, which kept them warm in the winter and cool in the summer. In the arid region, the Navajo were focused on water management. They used sand dunes to trap moisture and made dams and reservoirs to control water. This allowed them to live as farmers, sharing that quality with people of the Southeast, even growing some of the same foods like the Three Sisters. But it was important for the Navajo to make sure that they ate plants that retained water, like the cactus. They raised sheep and goats to help them work to water their crops and supplement their diet. And they made hogans out of clay, mud, and logs. In the far north, the Inuit people lived differently. Because agriculture was not feasible, they were often on the move, following herds of caribou during the summer, and sticking close to the coasts to fish and hunt seals during the winters. They used their most abundant resource, ice, to build igloos, which protected them from the cold wind and retained their body heat, keeping the temperature inside pretty comfortable. They made parkas, pants, and mittens out of caribou and seal skins. They would often wear 4 or more layers of clothing on their feet to keep them warm and dry, and develop snowshoes to travel more easily. In each case, the unique lifestyle of people across the continent was developed as an adaptation to the conditions of the environment. Let's take a moment to review. Settling in different geographic regions gave various indigenous people groups access to different resources and presented them with unique challenges to survival. This led peoples across the continent to develop a wide variety of cultural traits and ways of life because they had to adapt to the environment to survive. Hundreds of distinct tribes competed for land and resources across the continent, developing sophisticated social structures, governments, and trade networks over time. It's important to consider the rich culture and tradition of many different cultural groups in the Americas as we move forward in time to learn about when people from other continents reached the Americas for the first time in the 15th century. Next time, we'll take a look at some achievements made by indigenous peoples that shape the world we live in today. Until then, historians, always remember to be clever. Hey.